I'm looking for all the baddies all over the world. Ladies, where my baddies at? I'm bad. You bad. Way bad. Where my baddies at? I'm bad.
Hi, thanks for joining me on the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. Today, I have a guest who is outside the Chicago, Illinois area. His name is Carl King, and Carl is a relationship coach, and he has a really interesting story we're going to talk about. So welcome to the show, Carl.
Hey, thanks for having me, Zach.
So Carl, I was looking for someone for my podcast as a guest that knew someone that went missing. So I personally have somebody that has just disappeared, somebody I've known for over 30 years. And 2.5 years ago, they're just gone and nobody knows where he's at. And I'll do a separate episode about that, but I want to hear about your person that went missing. And it was somebody I believe that you worked with. So tell me what you know about him. First of all, tell me your relationship with him and how you knew each other.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. I didn't know the backstory for you that is so personal. But so about, man, I guess it was. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 12 years ago. I got hired at the post office, so I was a mail carrier, and I started in St. Charles, Illinois, as a mail carrier, and they had two different offices that were merged, and there was a guy by the name of Paul Batson that was working there, and he was different. I think he was quiet, which is, you have a variety of characters at the post office, and it's a smorgasbord of personalities. And if you're in any way interested in people and characters and trying to study and watch people and learn, the post office is such a fascinating place to be, and especially on the floor, because when you're in the office, there's such it's a pressure cooker. Honestly, back in the 80s and 90s, there was a thing called going postal. We haven't.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do people really go postal?
Yeah, no. It was a thing. Kind of is still a thing. Okay. And it's so when you're in the office environment, it is a pressure cooker, because you have people that you'll probably never see in your life that are breathing down the neck of the people that are there. So the supervisors are under the pressure of the postmaster, and the postmaster is under the pressure of people that you'll never see in your life, most likely. And so they are constantly trying to get you to get your times down, to deliver mail faster, to and that's the essence of it. Deliver mail faster.
And how long were you working there?
Yeah, I worked there about 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was in full disclosure, I had to get out of there because it was such a pressure cooker environment.
Because you didn't want to go postal?
I did. Yeah, and I say that half joking, but half serious, because it was ridiculous. And so I'm there, and I'm watching, and I'm looking around, and I'm observing. And I'd already worked early on in my life. I had worked as a unloader for trucks. So I worked at FedEx Ground, and I worked, taking a bunch of boxes off of a truck. And it was like high pressure. Boxes are coming down your trailer. You either have to load them up really fast or unload them off of the truck. And so, and you've got guys typically walking up and down the belt screaming at you. And so it is, unfortunately, a similar environment in the post office. And you've got folks that have been there. Many of the people that are there right now have been there for many, many years. And so there's this huge group of people that were, when I was there, planning to retire. And so they were just waiting on 4 or 5 more years, and then they were out of there. And so they weren't taking any, forgive my French, but
any shit, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't taking any shit from the supervisors, because it's union. And these folks, they've been doing the job for many years. They knew what they were doing. They knew their customers. They knew how to take care of their customers, and they were trying to do a good job. But you have people that are all about the numbers and just looking at numbers, And so when I was hired on, there were a lot of people that were either on some type of disability or
Mm.
were going and they would get hip replacement and knee replacements, and they had carpal tunnel syndrome. And that's from years of doing the same, walking
Yep.
the streets 10 miles a day. And so their bodies were breaking down. And so they knew that they had to take a little bit more time in order to save their bodies in order to get their retirement.
Yeah. And it's a government job too, right? So
Mhm.
they need to, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So it's a
And so, how,
quasi government. So yeah, so it's part government, part private. So it's like this private public partnership kind of a thing.
and then, so you're there and
Hmm.
you meet you have your group of friends there. And was the
Hmm.
guy that went missing, what was his name again? His name was
His name was
Paul.
Paul Batson, and so he was an ex-military. He was a Navy serviceman.
And so you met him and you were
Mhm.
friendly with him at work, and you said he was a quiet guy.
Yeah, except
And
for a
so
few
he,
times.
oh, okay, give me an example when he wasn't.
Um, well, I think all of us had those moments where the supervisors would push us too far,
Mhm.
and they kind of gave Paul a little bit of a wide berth, um, because he had seen military combat, and I think there was some respect there, but also some kind of trepidation from the management, like, okay, leave him alone. And so there was like one or two times that I do remember that I think probably everybody in that building at least once or twice lost their cool, um,
Mhm.
yeah, lost their shit and just like said something. And so yeah, so I knew him as somebody that didn't take any mess, but did a really good job, always buttoned down, dressed nice, his blues, shirt tucked in, looking sharp every day.
Was there some PTSD happening there as well, maybe from being a veteran?
Yeah, I couldn't diagnose it. I wouldn't be able to diagnose
Yeah.
it. But yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely some. He was. I think pretty introspective and quiet in that regard.
And was he married? Did he have a family that you knew of? Like, did you know anything about him?
Yeah, I did know he had a girlfriend at the time,
Okay.
and so yeah, not married, but had a girlfriend. Had some relationship difficulties, as you know. Once I'm 44 now, and he was 45 when
Okay.
he went missing, but I was 34 or so during that time, 30 whatever. So this would have been about 10 years ago for me, knowing him. And yeah, he had gone through some of the things that you go through when you get to your 40s, relationship difficulties and
Yep.
leaving others, and he had a child or two, and yeah, and a girlfriend, and he had
And
a
was he in
car.
touch with his children?
Yeah, he was in touch with his children, and
Okay.
he had this car, this Dodge, 2015 Dodge car that it was really beautiful. It was kind of like a sports car or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so was he living with his girlfriend? Like, what was his life like? I mean, because did he have a social life? Was he doing things with people outside of work, or was he just
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
mean, he would go out with some friends and drink on occasion or whatever. But yeah, had a girlfriend and had I mean,
he sounds like pretty
yeah, a
normal
normal,
guy though. Just,
absolutely, yeah, a normal guy, a veteran, and all of that. So yeah.
and then how did, like, what was the next steps? Like, one day he just stopped showing up for work?
So the next steps were he would take a vacation rarely,
Okay.
and so but because we got so much vacation time, I guess in context with like most of America, many people starting new jobs, they get maybe 2 weeks, and so we got like five or so.
Wow.
And then you add on, because as you reach seniority, you would get more vacation time. And then if you add, if you structure it around a holiday or whatever, and weekends and all that, you can really
Yeah.
disappear for a while. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, he would take his vacations and stuff like that. And yeah, one day he took a vacation, took a trip. He was going up north, and ostensibly going to look for a different post office that he could potentially work at. And we had a few people at the post office that had done that. One guy that I used to go to ride to work with, he went up to man, the name is escaping me, but he moved to a place further up north in
Okay.
Wisconsin that he went to, be a postal carrier there. And then, so transfers were really easy for the most part. But Paul wanted to explore what it was like in the area first and kind of get some type of boots on the ground.
And was he planning on like bringing his girlfriend with him? Was that his plan, or did he even get into those details?
Yeah, he didn't divulge all those details with us, but yeah, we did know, he was taking a vacation and looking at potentially going to a different postal.
And do you know if he took anybody with him on vacation, or he was just kind of exploring alone?
No, he was definitely a loner in that sense. He would go by himself, and very, like I said, very introspective, very quiet in those regards.
So he goes on vacation. He's gone.
Yeah.
Looking possibly for a new area to relocate to.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? He just doesn't come back?
Then, yeah, he doesn't come back. And then, initially people are, okay, that's fine. He's extended his vacation, everything's cool. And then, then the balloon goes up. Something's probably not right. Something seems off. His phone is not responding. Nobody's answering the phone. Something must be up. And so the authorities are alerted, and there's actually, then they find his phone. They find the location of his phone. They find his vehicle, and his phone is next to his vehicle. There's not really a sign of struggle, but knowing he was ex-military, there's this idea that maybe he went camping. Maybe he went off into the woods and dropped his phone and just left it. And so there's a massive manhunt that, go ahead.
Where was this at though? Was this in the town that you're in, or was this up north where he was looking for a job?
No, this was up north where he was looking for a job.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's so bizarre. Even if you are going into the woods to go camping, you wouldn't think you would leave your phone behind, even though it may not work in the middle of the wilderness, but you would still probably take it with you.
Yeah. You would think, yeah. But yeah, so then he goes and, it's in Bozeman, Montana.
Oh, okay. That's really in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm sure family and friends probably, I think, I lost my father about 2-3 months ago in August. And I think family and friends all want to offer the most hopeful outcome initially.
Yep.
There's some hope, there's some expectation. Maybe this happened, maybe that happened. So we float all these scenarios.
And the manhunt starts, and they start looking for him, and any signs at all other than what they found with the truck and the car and the phone?
The car and the phone, no. There's
And
literally no trace.
Wow, that's crazy. And so did family and friends go to Montana to look for him to try to, or were they relying on like the authorities, like the cops or the FBI or whoever to look for him? Like who was doing this search?
Yeah, so there was actually a very big manhunt. So it wasn't just a few podunk town, whatever, the local Barney Fife that goes and, kicks a few tires. And no, there was actually a manhunt with dogs and everything. And, and it went for days and there is no trace.
And so how did they end the search? They just like after a few days are like, there's just nothing more to do. And let's see if he shows back up.
Yes.
And what did his girlfriend do? Did she just, was there, usually the person, they always say that a suspect is the person that's in your life.
Yeah.
Was she ever like questioned? Did they ever think she had anything to do with it, or any of his family or anyone? Was there any suspects ever
No,
about
I
him
don't
missing?
believe there were any suspects. And the reason I say that is because, so, as I said, he was a quiet person. He was a
Hmm.
loner and a veteran, and so there was, uh, there was not an expectation that someone like his girlfriend or somebody overpowered him
Hmm.
and made his body disappear, something like that. And because there was no conclusion to the search, they didn't find anything. And so as a result, one of the theories was that he intentionally just disappeared, that he covered his tracks and disappeared and started a new life.
Hmm.
And he would not
So
be the first person.
it just went off the grid and just said, "I'm done. I'm starting over."
Yeah.
And did they know anything about, like, was his bank accounts touched or anything? Was there any money withdrawn where if you're gonna go off the grid and start over, you would need to do that? Did anybody ever check that, or
I
no one
don't
hasn't?
know. I'm not privy to that, honestly, Zach. So I don't want to speculate on that.
Yeah. I think it's just so crazy
Mhm.
that people would just disappear. What is your theory? Is that what you think? He just like, I'm done and I'm gonna disappear? Or do you think there was some foul play? Do you think aliens got him? Like, what's your theory?
Aliens is a great theory. I haven't thought about that one before, but that's a great one. I think my hope, if I were to be hopeful, would be that Paul found a way to find happiness and peace
Okay.
in in the wilderness. Yeah, just disappear, cover his tracks, and go and build him a wooden fort,
Yeah.
cover it with mud, and live as an outdoorsman, a wilderness man.
But to leave your kids and girlfriend
Mhm,
behind, even if your
mhm,
girlfriend, you're not so close with her anymore, your
mhm.
kids, you have kids. I mean, how can
Sure.
you just walk away from kids that you have? I mean, and knowing you're never going to see them again. I mean, I guess everybody's different. I just couldn't even imagine like walking away from
Yeah, I
kids.
wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't do that personally. I have I have 5 children, so yeah, the idea of just disappearing from their lives is something that I can't fathom. However, I think that I heard a guy named Ram Dass. You've probably heard of him before, but he's a philosopher, ideology guy, and he said that he thinks of people as trees in the forest. And when you
Okay.
look at a tree and you look at the way that it grew up, and you then look at the surroundings, you can understand why that tree is angled that way or how tall it grew or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think when you understand people and their and them and kind of their inputs, then you can have compassion for the decisions that they make. Because everybody makes
Yeah.
decisions that are reasonable to us, but to the outside world, it can look absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, we don't know what was going on in his head. And we
Yeah.
really don't even know if he even disappeared for sure on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
We
I
don't.
mean,
No, we don't know anything. It's all speculation.
I think that's just so crazy to me that you think one day could you see him showing back up one day back in your town where his kids are just I mean, wouldn't that
I
be the
could
craziest thing?
I don't know that it would be the craziest thing. I can see him watching his children, guiding them in subtle ways. And even I could see him even checking in with his kids and, writing them a letter and saying, I am intentionally off grid and I support you and I'm here for you, but this is better for my mental health. This is something that I have to do in order to stay around.
Okay, I guess it's just a different type of person that would do that. I mean, for me, I mean, sometimes I feel like, God, it would be great to just run away and,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. I think we've
everybody
all
has
felt
those.
that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, just get in the car and drive and just like
Hmm.
never turn around. But I
Hmm.
mean, just to actually do it and to not, I don't know. I guess it's just like you said, it's kind of who depends on you, who you are and the type of
Yeah.
how you grew up. So maybe that's just he came to terms with it and just like, this is what I'm doing and this is what I got to do for myself. And
Mhm.
I'm okay with it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think part of, some of the questions or the conversation around it was, well, he does have the training to disappear. So
yeah.
is there a motive? Is there a desire for that? Um, and I mean, interestingly enough, I read a story a few weeks ago. It was about a guy that he he had done this, um, and he was discovered like 3 towns over. He had changed his name, changed his appearance, not like aggressively or anything, but it just
Yeah.
changed some stuff. And he was living a completely different life. And like he was 80 years old, and somebody was like, "Oh, hold on a second, you?" And yeah, come to find out, he had completely established a whole new identity.
What was his reasoning for doing it? He just was sick of his old life.
I think that one was because of a woman.
Okay. Wow. That's going to be some woman to make you go and change and just leave your whole life behind. I mean,
Or person, right? Human,
or
whatever it is.
whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just insane. I mean,
Mhm.
again, I'm going to do an episode separately from mine, but my friend who I've known over 30 years
Mhm.
had some drug issues,
Yeah.
but was overcoming them,
Mhm.
had some mental health issues, living in New York City,
Mhm.
which I think it's hard to disappear in New York City.
Yeah.
And one day just stopped texting and
Mhm.
stopped calling. And it wasn't odd that he did that because
Mhm.
that's happened many times in
Yeah.
our friendship. Where he just disappears sometimes for 3 or 4 months and then
Mhm.
he's back on. He's like, oh, I just needed to go away and whatever.
Sure.
But this time it's been about 2.5 years he's been gone. And I've
Wow.
contacted other friends, I've contacted his family, and he's just gone.
Wow.
And I've like maybe he went to jail. I've looked up, incarceration records to see if his name
Mhm.
comes out. I've looked up obituaries. I do a Google search and search for. I did paid for one of these sites to try to find him
Sure.
to see like if there's anything about him.
Like a skip trace or something?
Yeah, like the where you go and like if you're doing a background check on somebody just to see
Yeah.
like if it shows a latest address or a phone
Sure.
number. Nothing. It shows that he's alive. It doesn't show he's dead, but that doesn't mean he's alive. But it doesn't show anything of any records. It doesn't. There's no criminal records that's coming up. Any recent criminal records. There's nothing showing up. I've looked,
Wow.
living in New York City too. You can go to these different databases and see if there are people in hospitals and stuff.
Mhm.
He's not showing up there,
Mhm.
so he just kind of gone. And I've been in contact with his cousins because his sister doesn't talk to him, and his mother and father are gone.
Mm.
But his cousins are like, we Google him and look for him every week, and there's
Wow.
just no trace of him. He just complete. In New York City, it isn't like you went to the wilderness, you went to Central Park and you disappeared. Like, so I don't know if somebody killed him and got rid of the body. I don't
Yeah.
know if he OD'd on drugs. I don't know. Maybe he's in some mental institution and nobody knows his name.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's in jail and he just no way. But one time he did get taken to a mental institution and he ended up. I was the only phone number he could remember because my phone number is so easy to remember. And he
Mhm.
called me
Mhm.
because he's like, "You're the only number I know," because
Mm.
they took my phone away, and but now he's gone. He's just
Yeah.
disappeared. So
And it sounds like you're still kind of waiting for that call, right?
I mean, if he's dead or he's in jail or whatever the case may be, I just want to know at this
Yeah.
point. It's just bizarre that you're gone.
Yeah.
And like somebody you've known for over 30 years, you just disappear and you don't say
Mhm.
anything. That's why I think it's got to be something bad. Something bad had to have happened, or he's put
Yeah.
away somewhere or something. And so I don't know what it is. And it's just weird because I probably every 2 weeks I do a Google search. I lay in bed for half an hour, 45 minutes, and I just go through and I search and I
Mhm.
try to spell his name different ways and all this
Mhm.
other stuff. So I'll do a whole episode on it at some point, and just, maybe somebody will hear it and they'll say, "Hey, I know him. I know
Mhm.
who he is." I'll put a picture of him on my website or put it into the podcast description. But
Mhm. And
and
there's
maybe
that
one
hope,
day,
right?
yeah. I mean, I just, you know, knowing somebody that long, you just
Yeah.
want to know what happened. So, and
Yeah,
he
closure,
hasn't had,
right?
yeah, you need closure. Exactly.
Mhm.
So, I mean, he hasn't had an easy life.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's some, like I said, I could sit here and talk about this for an hour with him, but I'll save it for another episode. But
Mhm.
so was my last question was this case ever like put on like local television or anything like that? Was there flyers put up with him or people? And if his kids do know,
Mhm.
if you think that he has contacted his kids, do you think his kids would say anything about it to anyone?
No, I think that Zach is me being hopeful, the eternal optimist.
Yeah.
I think, as you said, typically when people disappear, it's not under good circumstances,
Yeah.
and usually there's something tragic that's taken place.
Yeah.
And so me being hopeful and wanting to put a good spin on something that is most likely really, really heartrending. Yeah, I don't think it ended well. Just
Okay.
to be honest. And I think because there's not, for lack of a better word, there's not a body, because that then gives us closure, that closes the case, whatever it may be. But
Yeah.
yes, there were flyers. In fact, you can Google, you can search for Paul Batson and missing, and you can see the different types of flyers. Some are short, some are truncated, some are really long that tell about him, that give his story. Some have his picture, some have his picture with his Dodge Charger, with its vehicle. Some are just descriptions. And so there was a concerted effort and a lot of different types of attempts to find him and to, yeah, bring some type of peace to the family.
Yeah. Well, hopefully one day they'll find out, because I couldn't
Mhm.
imagine like having somebody, a family, a father or
Mhm.
child just go missing, and like you
Mhm.
never know, because you're always probably having in the back of your head, you're wanting to know where they are, if they're ever going to show up, if you're ever going to get an answer.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Mhm.
If you would like to find out more about Carl, his website is carlkingcoaching.com, and it's Carl with a C, CARLKING coaching.com. Again, he's a relationship coach. And do you do online relationship coaching,
I
or is it?
do. Yeah, they can go to my website and have a conversation. We can talk about what their goals are and work from there.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the story. And if you never know, maybe somebody will contact me and like, I know where Paul is and he doesn't want to talk. So if that happens, I'll get
I
in
think
contact
that
and
would
let
be
you know. So
beautiful. Yes.
you never know. So thanks so much for being on, Carl. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me
I'm
today.
looking for all the baddies all over the world. Ladies, where my baddies at? I'm bad, you bad. Way bad. Where my baddies at? I'm bad, you bad. Way bad. Where my baddies at? I'm bad, you bad. Way bad. Where my baddies at? Yeah. Real bad on the prowl. Heard you was next, but I'm up now. Yeah, I'm shining like bling blow. And I see a couple haters in the crowd. Yeah, drip, drip, drop, I'm juicy. Don't really care what you say.